Cristina González Castro. I'm an INWA instructor since 2006 and a national trainer in Spain. I thought it would be worth talking a little bit about physical exercise and Nordic walking in the time of COVID. So, as you know, being physically active is very beneficial for health and well-being, and as they say, it helps add years to life and life to years. And this has gained even more importance after COVID. In this very brief talk, I will explain why this is the case, and also, and importantly, I will explain why being physically active is not enough, why we must also avoid sedentary behavior. Okay, so I'll start with some basic facts regarding regular physical activity. These were stated by the World Health Organization before COVID. So regular physical exercise helps to prevent and manage disease. It improves our cognitive function. Inactive people have up to 30% greater risk of death of any cause. 1 in 4 adults are not sufficiently active, and this is even worse in children and youth. 4 in 5 do not meet the minimum requirements, and inactivity causes up to 5 million deaths worldwide per year. As you know, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected our physical activity levels. But most of all, it has affected increasing dramatically our sedentary behavior. And this is related to the time we spend sitting down. So, sitting down too long is harmful for our health. And sedentarism, irrespective of physical activity levels, is the 4th leading risk factor for global mortality. This is really important because it means that sedentarism is an independent factor. It doesn't matter how active you are. It is not enough if you spend too long sitting down every day. Okay, so sedentary behavior is related to increased risk of metabolic diseases such as obesity or chronic inflammation, hypertension, and type 2 diabetes. And guess what? More than half of COVID-19 admissions at hospital have metabolic disorders such as obesity or chronic inflammation. Up to 17% of them have hypertension and 10 to 20% have type 2 diabetes. So there's a clear link between sedentary behavior and the increased risk of viral conditions such as COVID-19. I know this can sound a little bit scary because most of us will think, oh my God, I do spend loads of time sitting down. And in some cases, such as office workers where you can't stand up on your desk or whatever, you might not have a way of avoiding that. But there's simple strategies that we can all use, like standing up when talking on the phone, avoiding lifts and escalators and climbing stairs. If you're at home watching TV, stand up and walk around your living room when there's commercials on TV. Park your car not right next to wherever you're going, but a little bit further away so you can walk a little bit. Little things like that, okay? If you must be sitting down for long hours, a good strategy is to try to break that sedentary behavior every half an hour. How do I do that? I stand up, I give myself a stretch. That's it, okay? So, the World Health Organization updated the guidelines of physical activity and sedentary behavior back in 2020, and the guidelines remain the same. I think you all know them. It's those famous 150 minutes of aerobic exercise at moderate intensity per week, or 75 minutes if it's high intensity. There's also guidelines on strengthening activity. Not everyone is aware of this. For all major muscle groups twice a week. And strength training can help you manage or lose weight. It increases your metabolism, so it helps to burn calories. It improves bone health, and it prevents sarcopenia, which is muscle wasting, okay? And muscular loss is associated as well with impaired mobility, bone problems, and metabolic disorders. So it is very important to maintain our muscle mass. So aerobic exercise, such as Nordic walking, should be complemented by some kind of strength training, okay? Regular strength training. These recommendations are minimums, and of course, the closer we get to them, the better. However, there is a new perspective on these guidelines, and it's that they specifically state every movement counts. So, physical activity of any type and any duration can improve health and well-being. But of course, the more, the better. And the good news is that regular physical exercise acts as a modulator for the immune system, and this suggests benefits in the response to viral conditions. So again, we can see how there's a clear link between being physically active and the lower incidence, intensity in symptoms and mortality in infections, communicable infections such as COVID-19. There's another aspect that I think is really important related to this, and it's very relevant in the COVID time, which is the psychological aspect, okay? Importantly, regular physical exercise improves psychological state. It boosts our mood, it sharpens our focus, it reduces stress levels, and it improves sleeping patterns. So physical exercise results in greater emotional well-being and in enhanced positive emotions. It increases our competence, feeling competent and capable. It enhances our social interaction as we feel part of a group and we're creating friends. It also provides us with the novelty experience, because in contrast with daily life, being physically active and engaging with a physical activity, it also brings a lot of things alongside, such as enjoying the landscape, for instance, and the cognitive relaxation, because when you're focused on a physical exercise activity, you're not focusing on work or your daily life problems. And it gives us this sense of physical exertion, so we know that it's good for us, so that makes us feel even better. There's also scientific evidence that proves that regular exercises develop less emotional disorders, and this is really important in the COVID time, because the pandemic has greatly affected our mental health and well-being. And something else to consider are green and blue spaces. I guess you've all heard about green spaces, like, it refers to nature, like forests and parks. When we talk about blue spaces, we're relating to water, so the seaside, rivers, lakes, things like that, yeah? It is established by the scientific literature that being in the outdoors and exercises in the outdoors is associated with better values on subjective happiness, which is how we perceive our happiness, which is really important, of course, life satisfaction and self-esteem. And it also reduces levels of depression and anxiety and feeling of loneliness. So this is all very relevant in the COVID time. And because of COVID, there's been more papers on relating to this, to the blue and green spaces and the mental well-being of people. There's a really interesting paper. It was made in Japan, 3,000 people, and they established how just having a view of nature from the window was beneficial. So I think we've all actually experienced this during lockdown. If we were lucky enough to have nature around us, I'm sure we've been better off than those that just had concrete or a mall outside of their windows. It should also be considered that the World Health Organization predicts that by 2030, mental health issues will be the leading cause of death and morbidity worldwide. This is very worrying, and this prediction was made in 2012, way before the COVID era. So I think that predictions might be even worse than expected. There's another thing I want to touch upon, and that's related to healthy lifestyle as well, and it's just mentioning smoking and alcohol. The World Health Organization states that every year 8 million people, 8 million worldwide, die from tobacco. And there is no safe level of exposure to tobacco, okay? And the same goes with alcohol, up to 3 million deaths per year. And it increases the risk of developing up to, on risk of developing or catching up to 200 different diseases. And again, there is no safe level of exposure to alcohol. And if you combine alcohol and tobacco, you're multiplying by 30 the risk of certain cancers. So really important, apart from being physically active, avoiding smoking and alcohol. And lastly, regarding healthy lifestyle, sleeping is also really important, and maybe it's not so much on the media. Getting less than 6 hours of sleep at night is associated with increased risk of obesity, cardiovascular disease, common cold, diabetes, respiratory infections, and up to 10% increase of all-cause mortality. So we should aim to try to sleep better if we're not doing so, and there's different strategies as well that you can choose to do that. Obviously, being physically active is one of them. We have to choose what time of the day is better for you, because it's not there's not a rule of thumb for everyone. Some people, if they exercise in the evening, they don't sleep well. Some people, if they exercise in the evening, they sleep really well. So you have to look which one it works for you, but being physically active certainly improves sleeping patterns. Okay, so it's basically a matter of trying to lead a healthy lifestyle and improving, the way we live. So avoid sitting down long periods of time. If you have to do that, break that sedentary behavior every 30 minutes and give yourself a stretch. Try to improve your physical activity levels. Eat well. Avoid smoking and alcohol, and try to have regular sleeping patterns. Why is Nordic Walking interesting here? Why is it a really helpful tool? Well, because it is a whole body aerobic exercise, but it is a low impact exercise. Perceived exertion is very low, so the feeling of tiredness is really low, lower than walking with no poles at the same speed. We still have COVID going around. We have a lot of people with persistent COVID, and we had people who they know they have to exercise but they feel very tired. So that's why perceived exertion is really important, and Nordic Walking has a sense of tiredness that is lower than other types of physical exercise. Also, Nordic Walking abides by everything I've said in this talk. It's practiced outdoors, and I've mentioned how just being outdoors and exercising outdoors is good for us. Also, some people might be reassured because some people are still scared of training indoors, because we know that COVID is an airborne condition. So Nordic Walking is usually practiced outdoors, so that's a good one as well. And it is a social activity, and we've talked about the importance of feeling part of a group, on improving mental health, group support, and there's some specific papers before COVID on how Nordic Walking contributed to this group support and this mental well-being as feeling part of a group. So as you can see, in this context, Nordic Walking has great benefits. So being physically active is critical for health and well-being, also for psychological well-being. That's something that we can't lose mind of. And I hope I've touched some interesting areas to give you some food for thought, and that you can have a nice discussion after this brief talk. I hope you liked it. Thank you very much.